Our story begins with Rent, who wakes up early and gets ready for the day. He says that adventurers have to start their day early, just like poor people. Only nobles, rich merchants, and some scattered scholars get to sleep until noon. He admits that this might be a bit biased, but mentions that his scholar friend sometimes forgets to sleep for days while working on research. Rent decides that he will check on his friends soon and heads over to the guild. At the Adventurers Guild, Rent notes that the guild matches jobs with adventurers based on their skills. Jobs ranges from monster hunting to gathering herbs and materials. He chats with fellow adventurers who ask if he's going to the labyrinth of the moon's reflection again. Rent says that's his plan if he doesn't find any better jobs. When Rent sees that there are no suitable jobs for him, he heads to the labyrinth. He explains that while most adventurers work in groups, he prefers going solo because he isn't very skilled. Despite 10 years of adventuring, he's only at bronze rank, the second lowest rank among adventurers. But he manages to make a living by hunting monsters and selling magic stones and materials. He lives carefully for his adventures and even has a little emergency fund saved up. Rent heads to the labyrinth of the moon's reflection and discovers an unexplored hidden area. He's surprised, thinking this could be a major find. As he enters, he realizes it's truly unexplored and starts mapping it out, imagining how much money he could make just by reporting this new location to the guild. When he goes deeper into the labyrinth, Rent suddenly comes face to face with a terrifying dragon. Legends say that dragons can take many forms, and though Rent has never seen one before, he knows this is a dragon by feeling its overwhelming presence and the pressure it exerts, which freezes him in place. Realizing he stands no chance against it, as a bronze-ranked adventurer, Rent is devoured by the dragon. When Rent wakes up, he's beside a lake, but to his shock, he's now an undead skeleton. He's stunned, wondering how he survived being eaten by a dragon. He realizes that he has become an immortal monster, known as an undead. He knows that a bishop or priest could easily destroy him with purification magic because undead are considered unnatural. Although he feels like he's dead, but he's still conscious and remembers everything that had happened. Rent thinks off, returning to town, but fears that the townspeople would capture and exorcise him. Deciding he doesn't want to face destruction yet, he pushes those thoughts aside. With the dragon gone, he decides to leave the area, though it might still be dangerous. As he makes his way out, Rent says that labyrinths are found worldwide. Many researchers are trying to uncover their secrets, but no one truly knows where they come from or how they function. Labyrinths come in all shapes and sizes, filled with valuable magic equipment and treasures, but also with dangerous monsters. Rent thinks about how everyone is probably at the labyrinth of the new moon right now, where there's good money to be made. He figures that in a few days, other solo adventurers like himself might come here. Rent realizes that he needs to figure out how to communicate with others, as he's now an undead skeleton. He spots another skeleton and tries to fight it, but his new skeleton body feels heavy and weak. Without muscles, his attacks are ineffective, and he even struggles to lift his sword. He falls, and so does the attacking skeleton, breaking one of its legs. As the skeleton tries to fix its leg, Rent thinks he can't rely on fancy sword techniques as a pile of bones. He wonders if he can use his other skills. He notices that he can still use spirit energy, which everyone has. He tries fighting the skeleton again, using spirit energy to boost his strength. This time, he manages to defeat the skeleton with his sword. After the fight, a golden light appears from the dead skeleton, helping him recover his used-up spirit energy. Rent remembers his scholar friend mentioning that monsters evolve over time, just like humans grow with training. She said that skeletons can rarely evolve into ghouls through something called existential evolution. Ghouls are undead, but have flesh, making them closer to humans. Rent thinks if he uses robes and a mask to hide his form, he might be able to return to his town. He decides to aim for becoming a ghoul and plans to defeat more monsters to achieve this. Meanwhile, his scholar friend is wondering why Rent hasn't visited her today and decides to make dinner herself. Back in the labyrinth, Rent fights more skeletons. The golden light from the skeletons, after defeating them, helps in healing him and pushes him toward existential evolution. Rent decides it's time to face stronger monsters and encounters a slime. He knows slimes are weak, but shouldn't be underestimated. Physical attacks don't work well on slimes, since they're formless and liquid. Magic is usually the best way to defeat them, but Rent can only start small fires and not able to use offensive magic. He thinks he'll have to use physical attacks. He knows the two ways to defeat a slime are to break its core or to destroy its liquid form until it can't regenerate. Rent realizes that with his current lack of skill and strength, he can only manage to defeat one slime a day by using up all his spirit energy. He engages in a fight with another slime, and to his surprise, he takes it down with just one strike. He thinks he must have been lucky and hit the core. He then collects the slime's liquid, which is valuable for making cosmetics, and sells well. Rent is excited because this slime's liquid can cover several days' stay at the inn. The scene then shifts to the Adventurers Guild. One of the guild workers asks a receptionist named Sheila if the new adventurer who joined recently has found a party yet. Sheila tells the guild worker that there wasn't a good spot for the new adventurer, so she planned to ask Rent, but he hasn't come back since yesterday. The worker is surprised and wonders if Rent took a long-term job. Sheila says that he hasn't, and she explains that she promised to introduce the newbie to a veteran if she waited a few days. But since the newbie needed money urgently, Sheila suggested the Labyrinth of the Moon's reflection instead, as it is safe than other labyrinths. Meanwhile, Rent feels neither sleepy nor hungry. He realizes it's because he's an undead now. Even after fighting all night, there's no sign of him reaching existential evolution. He understands it might take longer, but he notices that his physical abilities are back to what they were before he died. He confirms that he can use his spirit energy, mana, and even divinity, despite being an undead. Rent decides to use his divinity on a piece of bread, since he doesn't want to waste it. He explains that divinity is useful for curing injuries and illnesses, making it a powerful tool. Rent also mentions that he has a power to purify water and delay food spoiling. He thinks that this will keep the bread fresh for 3 more days, and hopes that by then, he'll have a body that needs it. For now, he plans to defeat monsters, and feels confident handling 1 or 2 at a time. But if he faces more, he could be in trouble. He reflects on his weakness and explains that even after 20 years of adventuring and training, he's never met anyone with spirit energy, mana, and divinity like him. He knows that only a few people can use all those skills. Knowing he's not cut out to be an adventurer, he sees that most people quit after a few years for other jobs. But he's determined to keep going as long as he's alive. He trained daily, learned about monsters and magic from friends, and took minor jobs, all to achieve his dream of becoming a mithril class adventurer, which is the highest rank. And becoming a skeleton won't stop him from reaching that goal. Rent continues to fight monsters and notices that he's stronger than he was as a human. After defeating a slime and absorbing its power, he undergoes existential evolution and transforms into a ghoul. He's thrilled to have flesh on his bones, even if he's a dried-out corpse. He believes that with hard work, he can make a living and maybe even become a higher-ranked undead. If he becomes a vampire one day, he might look almost human. He tries to speak and realizes that he can make noises. With practice, he manages to say a few words, though his voice sounds a bit creepy. If you like this story, please subscribe to my YouTube channel.